Hello and welcome to Nana's Crafty Home. My name is Tanya. Today's tutorial is going to show you some tips and tricks to help you master tapestry crochet in single crochet. And I just recently used this technique for my Chasing Diamonds tapestry bag that you can find as a free pattern on my website. And I will have a link provided below if you'd like to head over and check that out on the blog. So first, we're going to start out with reading graphs in tapestry crochet. So instructions can be provided in a couple of different ways. You can get your traditional written instructions where those written instructions will tell you single crochet 8 brown, then single crochet 1 blue, single crochet 8 brown, and so on and so forth. Turning, chaining, all of that. My preferred method of following tapestry crochet is just following a graph, and that is very easy to do. So you can see here, this is the essential graph that I use for my Chasing Diamonds bag. Just worked flat, but this is the basic pattern that I used for that bag. You can see here that I have blocks, and each of these blocks represents one single crochet stitch. So this graph is telling me what color each one of those blocks or each one of those single crochet stitches needs to be as I work my project. You can see that these are numbered down here below, 1 through 17, and then I have these 1, and then alternating over to the left side of my graph is 2, back over to the right is 3 and 4. And what that is telling me is that this graph is worked flat, not in the round. So for a right-handed crocheter, I'm starting over here, box number 1, my first single crochet is going to be the taupe, the brown color, and I'm going to be heading this direction in the left direction, and then for row 2 I will be heading back in this direction and working this way. So basically it's alternating those numbers, showing me which direction I will be working each one of those rows in. If I were a left-handed crocheter, it would be the opposite. I would be going in this direction first and then back that way. So that's an easy way to tell where you are in your graph. These numbers down here are going to tell you how many stitches for your row. So here for row 1, you can see throughout the pattern is 17 stitches per row. And so that's going to tell me how many to start out with. This is just a 2-color graph, so I'm only going to be working in the taupe and the aqua throughout, so I will only be carrying 1 color throughout this graph. So by looking at this graph, I know I'm going to have 17 stitches to start out with, and for every row. So that tells me working in single crochet, I'm going to want to have a foundation chain of 17 plus 1 for my turning chain, which would be your usual when you're working single crochet patterns. So I will begin by chaining that 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So with 18 chains on my hook, even though row 1 in my graph is only the taupe, I don't have any blue that I'm going to be working. Another tip for you when working tapestry crochet, when you're going to be carrying a color, is you're going to want to be carrying a color throughout the entire graph. That way you'll maintain thickness of your fabric throughout. I know some people choose to not do that in order to conserve yarn, but good practice would be to go ahead and carry throughout your work. In order to carry that blue throughout, I'm just going to go ahead and pull that blue through, leaving a tail, put that loop back on my hook, and I'm going to work that first row of taupe, carrying my second yarn color, my aqua, throughout that row. So I'm going to start by working in that second chain from the hook, and I'm going to be working over that aqua color in the back, because this is going to be the right side of my work. So I want that blue to be at the back of my stitch in order to prevent that color from bleeding through the front of my work. So I'm just going to be working my single crochet over top of that yarn and finishing the stitch. The important thing with working tapestry crochet is you want to crochet a little tighter. Unless you're a really tight crocheter, typically you're going to want to work a little tighter than what you generally would. That helps that color that you're carrying from not showing through your work. So just be a little more conscious of how tightly you're working your single crochets, and probably work a little tighter than what you would normally work for those. But maintain your tension throughout your work. So I'm just working single crochets in every chain, working over that carried yarn throughout this row. Another tip for you as you're working your tapestry crochet is periodically just check out the back of your work to see if you have any gaps in what you're carrying, and then just gently tug on it. Of course, in this case, you want to make sure, because I'm carrying it and it's the beginning of the row, you're going to want to hang on to that blue tail so you don't pull it through. But gently just hold this tail and then tug to make sure there's no slack in there at all. And that's going to help keep that yarn from showing through as well. And I will show you, you're going to want to do that most especially when you're getting ready to change colors, because once you've changed color, it's going to set that yarn in place and you won't be able to make any adjustments to it after you've changed colors. But I'm just working down this row. And this is probably going to be the most awkward portion for you because of course, you know, you're working your foundation chain, which is generally a little more awkward anyway, but you're also carrying another yarn color. And that takes practice. If you've never carried yarn before in a project, it just takes a little bit of practice to get used to it. But once you've done it a few times, you're going to get a lot more comfortable with carrying your yarn. Working this last stitch, working over that yarn that I'm carrying, and I'm going to go ahead and turn. Now, when you're working tapestry crochet flat row by row, and you're going to have a front side and a back side, even though they will look good from both sides. Of course, we talked about keeping your yarn to the back of your work, which there is some difference here in how that looks. So, and you can see here I've got a little bit of a gap, so I'm going to want to tug on that just a little bit to kind of tighten that up, and see how that tightened that up just a little bit. But I've decided that this is the front side of my work here. So when you're working tapestry crochet row by row and you have a front side and a back side, you want to keep the yarn that you are carrying when you turn to the front of your work here, because this is the wrong side. So if I were to turn my work and keep this to the back side and start carrying it from the back as I turned and worked that first single crochet, see what happens here. I'm going to chain one for that second row, and if I have that to the back and I work my single crochet over it to carry it, this is the front side of my work over here, and see what happens is that becomes really visible on the front side. I don't want that. So when I'm turning my work, I'm going to keep that yarn to the front, which is the wrong side of my work back here, before I work over it with my single crochet. Now see the difference. This is the front side of my work and I can't see that turn. And that's what you're going to want to do. Remember that your yarn that's being carried, if you're working on the wrong side of your work, you're carrying it to the forward. If you're working on the right side of your work, you want to carry it towards the back. And that's going to be your guide. If you were working this in the round, here I'm working it row by row flat, but if you were working this in the round, you would always be working from the same direction. This would always be the front side of my work, and so your yarn would always stay on the back, and you wouldn't need to worry about bringing it forward, bringing it backward, because you would always just keep that carried yarn in the back of your work. So it's really only when you're working flat, working row by row, that you have to be really conscious of where that yarn is as you are working over it on those turns. So I'm going to continue and look at my graph, and for row 2, and I'm over here, it looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the taupe before I have to change over to my blue. So I've worked 3. I've just worked my 7th single crochet. The 8th brown or taupe is going to be my final single crochet before I change colors. So the most important thing to remember when working tapestry crochet is when you're working that last stitch before a color change, you are not going to want to complete that single crochet. So this is my 8th single crochet. I'm going to go ahead and pull up that loop in my taupe. Do not finish that single crochet, and I'm going to change now to my second color, to my aqua. And before I go ahead and finish that stitch with the aqua, I'm going to pull on it gently, tug on it just to make sure that it's nice and snug in there, not showing at all. And I'm going to finish that 8th single crochet with my aqua. Now, you can see here that when I finished and brought through that loop with the aqua, I still have my 2 bars here in the front, and my loops at the top are still the taupe color. But now my loop is in the aqua. So now I'm going to go ahead and be working over the taupe color and working that 1 aqua stitch over top of that yarn. But again, I'm only working 1 stitch, so I'm only going to bring up a loop. I'm not going to complete that single crochet with the aqua. I'm going to drop it, and I'm going to bring back in my taupe to finish that single crochet. And so now the rest of this row is worked in my taupe. All right, so I've completed row 2, and I'm going to go ahead and turn. I'm back to the right side of my work, so when I turn, I want to make sure that that blue that I'm carrying is brought to the back before I work that single crochet, that first single crochet over it. And so I'm working over that from the back. So I'm going to chain 1 for row 3. I'm going to work my single crochet over that blue as it's being carried in the back, and that's leaving that blue on the back of my work here. Okay, so now I'm going to be working 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total taupe colors, stitches for the beginning of row 3. So that is 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is my last one. This is 7. So again, do not finish that stitch. Drop your taupe, bring in your aqua to finish that stitch. I'm going to be working 3 in the aqua. Make sure you're working over that taupe now. There's 1. 2. And 3. And since that's my last one, I don't want to finish that last single crochet. I'm going to finish that with the taupe. So I'm going to bring that in to finish that stitch. And the rest of the row is worked in the taupe. And I have one final tip for you today. I just recently came across this. It's called the yarn under technique in working your single crochet when you're doing tapestry crochet. And what is that? So typically when we are working a single crochet, you're doing a yarn over. And a yarn over is where your hook goes under the yarn, grabs it, and then pulls through. A yarn under is when you grab your yarn by putting your hook over it, and the yarn is under that hook and then pulling through. So you're grabbing it from up top and you're pulling through. That technique helps to minimize slant. So in single crochet, you will see that projects, your graphs will usually slant slightly, and that is because of how you're pulling your yarn through on those single crochets. But if you adjust and pull from under your hook and pull it up, and you can see here, I naturally, because I've crocheted for over 40 years now, and so it's my default to just grab my yarn this way. It feels a little awkward to me. I have to think about it to come up above and have my yarn under my hook like that. So that's called a yarn under. That will help also create a more crisp and professional image as you're working your graph. It's not necessary. You can, if it's more comfortable for you, especially as you're learning tapestry crochet, if you're more comfortable doing the yarn over as you generally do, work your graphs with the yarn over. They don't look bad. They just slant slightly, and this is just an added technique for you to try, especially for you more advanced tapestry crocheters, to just move on to the next level. It's going to give your single crochet just a little bit of a different look, but it will allow you to have a more professional appearance to your graphs as they're worked in the tapestry crochet. If you found this tutorial helpful today, please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel to get notified whenever I post a new video. Also, remember to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. That helps other crocheters find my videos as well. You can reach out to me on any of my social media platforms. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And as always, take care, everyone. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.